Welcome to the second half of the Mortal Kombat horror video analysis. If you haven't watched the first one, please click on the link on the top right and you'll be sent right over there. In this next half of the video, I'll be talking about the fatalities as well as the characters that make up the game, as I needed to separate them because honestly talking about the fatalities alone might actually demonetize this video, but we'll see about that. So before we start talking about the fatalities and all that stuff, we should also briefly honorably mention some of the character designs in this game. Because yes, there are some characters that are just super freaky in themselves. Now, characters like Baraka, for example, have always been pretty weird and pretty creepy to look at, especially in the old trilogy where he's just a dude with a really creepy rubber face. It looks super uncanny and kind of bad, and that's what kind of made him really unique and just an icon for the franchise in general. Everybody remembers Baraka, especially people who love Mileena, and there are way too many people who really love Mileena. For some reason, I wonder. But despite that, you can't forget about her face. What hides underneath that mask, that horrible visage that lies behind that mask. A lot of people have said that this is based off of the slit mouth woman. However, I found no such evidence of this being true at all. Like, there's no reputable sources that say that. It's just kind of an estimated guess on that being the inspiration behind Mileena's design, but I kind of doubt it. Most of these characters are based off of movies, and I'm just assuming she's also part of a movie. Might have been a Japanese movie that had the slit-mouth woman, but not directly the slit-mouth woman. Then there's characters like Raiden, who are just spooky just because his eyes are glowing. Yes, I was scared of Raiden as a kid. Okay, I was really young, alright? He looked creepy, you could barely see his face, and he had glowing eyes. I thought he was just the devil. He's just scary to me, man. I don't know, but not anymore. I just think he's cool. But dude, I don't know. Something about him just really freaked me out. You know what really freaked out a lot of kids though? Fucking Goro. Not only because he's creepy and uncanny looking compared to the human actors that exist in this game, but also because he's fucking hard. I think he's actually super unfair. He's such a bullshit asshole. But despite that, he has an iconic design that is just as memorable as Baraka or Mileena, and just as creepy too. And yet, as spooky as these guys are, and please tell me I'm not alone on this, Scorpion is probably the one that I was scared of the most. Seriously. Not really because of the games, actually, mostly because of the movie. The portrayal of Scorpion wasn't really done properly in hindsight, sure. Regardless, everything else is done very effectively. And though it was really scary to me as a kid, I really appreciate what they did to portray him now as an adult. I remember in particular the way they brought out his spear to life was pretty creative, and I'm not sure if they did that same idea afterwards, but seeing his spear come out of his hand was just so cool. Hell, I think in the original game, it's just a rope with the dagger at the end, and it still is even to this day. Thanks, whoever the fuck texted me. But here, it's a straight up snake that sort of homes in on its target, which I think is fucking awesome. When Johnny Cage went to hell with him, dude, that shit gave me nightmares because I'm fucking afraid of hell. And as a kid, being exposed to this fucking concept of hell is maddening. It's not like brimstone and fire. It's straight up skulls, like cobwebs. Everything's made out of bones. That's rad as fuck, but it's scary to a kid. It was just, you know, just dead bodies everywhere. Rickety bridges? Why? Bamboo sticks. Wait, actually this is getting goofy. It's super inventive though, seriously. If I were stuck in here, I'd go fucking insane. I also love that Scorpion is super courteous though. Welcome. What a gentleman. But let's cut the shit. Let's talk about the fatalities. Seeing blood and guts, I'm sure is really cool for some kids, but at the same time, when Mortal Kombat was really popular, I just barely started elementary school, so I wasn't in that violence is awesome phase. I was still in my rosy cheek Catholic boy phase, and seeing the fatalities in this game messed me up something good. Now again, this is Traumathon. I'm not going to talk about the more recent fatalities because, well, they're very recent, and also they're the sort of thing that people get demonetized for, so for the sake of the video, I'm only going to mention the old school shit. And let me tell you, you can't get any more old school than the iconic Sub-Zero fatality. This image right here was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was the shit before the storm. The reason why games got banned and why we have a rating system. And for me, it was a source of nightmares. Now, obviously, some of these fatalities are straight up goofy, and the dev team amped up the goofy vibes even further when they made each corpse blow up into like 1,000 different body parts, some of which are just repeating body parts. In fact, most of them are. Seriously, why the hell do some of these dudes have like 37 legs and 44 arms and like 5 heads? Then there are the more lame, goofy fatalities like Quan Chi's neck stretch thing. That sucks. That's not really scary. I mean, he does have that one awesome fatality where he rips out your leg and starts beating you to death with it. That's also not scary, but that's really fucking funny. But let's narrow our gaze into the more spooky kills. And obviously we won't be mentioning brutalities, animalities, and babalities, but it's always cool that Mortal Kombat had multiple ways to kill you, and it's what made these games so fun and memorable. Enough fucking around though, let's talk creepy fatalities. We already talked about Sub-Zero's fatality, which sparked controversy around the world. Then we spoke briefly about Scorpion, who is a revenant, and when he takes off his mask, we can see a burning skull face, which to me still looks effectively creepy in the older games. Obviously in the newer games it doesn't really hit as well. I mean, it does kind of, but it doesn't hit nearly as well as the older games, which had real people, and when you mix that up with these kinds of imageries, well, you get something that's pretty creepy and kind of serious looking rather than the newer games. Some people were actually scared off by the fatality of Cabal though, one of my favorite characters. He had this cool Mad Max-like getup that always seemed rad to me, and when he took off his mask, I remember some people finding that creepy. Hell, the face is so fucking scary that it literally scares his opponents to death. See what I mean by goofy? You get a lot of those from the older games, but what really gets kind of creepy is when they have more weird imagery involved, like this one where Sindel screams at her opponent so hard that their fucking skin is ripped out of their body, leaving this creepy looking corpse. Or the weird ones where Kano rips off someone's entire skeletal structure from their body, leaving this like little puddle of human on the floor. Shiva does the same shit, and it's like, man, I don't know, something weird about that. Some society shit right there. Y'all ever watch that movie? You know, we should talk about it someday. Shang Tsung got some fucked up fatalities too, and I can imagine as a designer he must be really fun to make up fatalities for, because he's a sorcerer and he can pretty much fuck with anyone or reality in any way he wants. But the one fatality of his that I love the most is the one where he straight up takes your soul in the second game. I love that shit. It's actually really well animated and super creepy looking. And I know I wasn't gonna mention modern fatalities because they're too new, but dude, how am I not going to mention this fucking horrifying fatality where he's hanging someone by their limbs and letting fiends from hell rip their fucking guts out? It is so cool. God damn, I love Shang Tsung. But speaking of animations, there aren't any in particular that come to mind, but any fatality that has characters burn alive and dance around as a skeleton or get burned from acid, those are always really creepy. And again, it comes down to just the sheer uncanny valley sort of look to Mortal Kombat. These guys are all played by real actors, and sure, they're tuned up here and there to look more animated, but they sort of make the fatalities pop out more and seem unnerving. And while those old fatalities aren't nearly as creative as nowadays, they're still 100 times creepier because of the realness. So when we move on to the new 3D era, they get more creative because now they have camera angles and they can manipulate the camera in any way they want, show more detail. Yet I really don't think any of these are that crazy or that spooky, to be real with you, save of course for, I don't know, MK4 fatalities, which had these specific fatalities where you could just strip someone of their fucking skin, and it's like, wow, that's so creepy, man. I don't know, just look at that face. That is like some live leak shit right there. But MK9 does bring back a lot of the creep factor with a ton of these fatalities, and I seriously mean it's fucking disturbing. One that sticks out to me personally was the Sector fatality. This one in particular, that's so fucking brutal. It's actually like disturbing, actually. Like, I remember showing this to my sister and she always said that the shit was like straight out of a horror movie. Ermac got a pretty fucked up fatality too, where he tears off the limbs of his opponents, leaving them in the air, writhing in pain, and finishes them off by smashing their fucking skull into the floor, leaving nothing but their torso. Noob's fatality drags their opponent to the literal shadow realm, cuts off their bottom half, and has them crawling in agonizing pain, and he just leaves them there to bleed out and die. Cool. That's nowhere near as bad as his other fatality though, where he tears a motherfucker in half with his shadow clone, and it's just sickening to watch, man. That's so... wow. Smoke's fatality, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. What happened here? What happened? Like, what? Did he vibrate their molecules so hard that they just self-destructed? What the hell? Oh, and his alternate fatality ain't any better. God damn, dude, chill out. Sub-Zero's infamous spinal fatality gets a remake, and it's far more brutal than before. Cool. But speaking of brutal, Scorpion straight up has the most metal fucking fatality ever. Sick. And Kung Lao also got one of the rawest fatalities too. And these are the good guys, by the way. You wouldn't think that though when he does this. He puts his little hat on the floor, which is like a buzzsaw, and he just like drags his opponents by force as they're screaming their fucking guts out and begging him not to do it. And he just like cuts them right through as they're screaming in agony and writhing in pain. And then he just holds up the corpse in the air like, yay, I did it. Wasn't that sick? It sure was. So you can tell that the HD era of the Mortal Kombat games gave us some real fucking brutal and inventive fatalities, and even MK1 has some fatalities that are just nightmare fuel, but again, this is Traumathon, so we can't talk too much about those. Though I should maybe someday make a tier list of like fatalities that are creepy / disturbing, but for now, I think we're gonna wrap it up here before I really get demonetized. In conclusion though, it's really not surprising just how horrifying this game franchise can be. And even nowadays, I still find myself looking up the old artwork from back when the original trilogy in the 3D era existed, and I get nostalgic all over again. It truly is an inspiring piece of work that I still love to this very day, that has so many horror-adjacent vibes that I still am really digging even now. But man, when I was a kid, I didn't understand what I loved. But nowadays, I'm fully embracing this.
I couldn't afford a present this year, so I got you this plush.